This isn't the creme de la creme of protection dogs. We've been asked to talk specifically about medium-sized dogs that could do this.
It's like the little sleeper cell, right? Like if you have this dog protection trained, no one's gonna expect this dog to turn a little Tasmanian devil. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or wherever you may be in this lovely world. As always, this is the Species Canine podcast with my co-host, Taylor. How are you today, ma'am?
I'm back home.
You are?
I am.
Did you have a little fun?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, a little road trip, and we're going to get some video from that and explanation of all the fun things you did while on the road with two dogs, huh?
Yep. It'll hopefully give people some good tips on what to do when traveling with dogs and just kind of show them my setup and all that. So
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So what is on for today?
in our very loved, universally beloved and agreed with protection dog video,
Yes.
there were some folks that were asking, rightfully so, about why certain breeds weren't included. And the answer is that we were limited to 10. The title of the video was Top 10. But somebody had asked, well, why don't we do a video talking about dog breeds that are smaller, that might not be the most obvious candidates for a protection dog, but still could have the characteristics to do it. So this will be a bit offbeat. You might not think of these breeds right away, but I have compiled 10 breeds that we can talk about here.
All right. But also keep in mind, every breed that has the right traits that they demonstrate can be used for protection training. I've seen some crazy videos of really little dogs that just have a natural high drive and they want to bite things and stuff, and you can exploit that for protection training. Doesn't necessarily mean that every dog in that breed category will do it.
Yeah, so when we're saying medium-sized dogs, we're going about 60 pounds and under. All right, to start us out, we've got the Airedale Terrier. This is the largest AKC recognized terrier. There are many terriers that are not recognized by the AKC, but it's pretty big for a terrier. They get to from 40 to 60 pounds. Obviously, males way more than females. And these are dogs that will consistently participate in 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐜 competitions. They're known to be very courageous, and they have a strong protective instinct.
Yeah, they're a cool breed. I like they kind of the shorter tails on them. And then based on the grooming standards, how you want to groom them, you can keep that like little goatee thing going there for them. But also keep in mind that the word terrier is an old English word meaning to go to ground. So pretty much every terrier, well, not pretty much every terrier that was ever bred was bred for the job of pretty much to kill things. So even the Airedale, they actually called him the king of terriers. More reference for that. And they were used for everything from hunting to retrieving to guardian to, working dogs, canines, police canines. So they're overall a really, really great dog. I've met some Airedales. They're super smart. They're fun to work with. They have a lot of drive. So yeah, they make a great protection dog. Now keep in mind, finding the right one to do that.
Something like an Airedale Terrier, not very common. Very common. So if you were to find a breeder, there's a very good chance that they're doing this not just because, they know it's a cash grab, but because they care about the breed and the breed standard.
And there's also another part of that. If you're walking down the street with a Rottweiler, Doberman Pinscher, German Shepherd, something like that, 99% of the time, people are going to assume aggression, assume dangerous, something like that. You're going to have some misconception. Doesn't matter how well the dog's trained or behaved. People are going to cross the street, right? You're walking down the street with an Airedale, no one's going to look twice. No one's going to think twice. It's like the little sleeper cell, right? Like if you have this dog protection trained, no one's going to expect this dog to turn a little Tasmanian devil on a command word, right? Because there's like, when you first glance at it, like, oh, it looks like a little old man. Like little fuzzy face, things like that. They're like little teddy bears, look like cool little dogs. It's essentially a gigantic Yorkie.
Yeah, and there can be like pros and cons to that. So like we talked about the stopping stuff before it starts, right? Like it deters people if you have a big scary dog. Sometimes people are just crazy and it doesn't matter. But there's the other side of it. Like maybe you live in an apartment complex and they don't want you having an aggressive dog like a German Shepherd or Rottweiler. You know, they could look at a dog like this that in many circumstances can be protection trained and it's not going to turn any heads in
Yeah,
that sense.
especially if you're leasing, because there's a lot of places, or even like even if you own a house, there's a lot of insurances and things like that that won't cover Rottweilers, pit bulls, German shepherds, things like that, things that have a traditional high bite history. I've yet to see a banned dog list that said Airedale.
Yeah, people don't even know what they are.
Yeah.
Next up, we have, I put these two in the same category because they often are put in the same category. So we have the American Pit Bull Terrier, which is not an AKC recognized breed. However, it does have a breed standard that many people breed towards. And then we have the Staffordshire Terrier, which is recognized by the AKC. So on the left, you've got the American Pit Bull Terrier. They're a little more slender, a little less boxy looking in the head than the Staffy, but both of these dogs have extremely similar histories. Both stem from blood sports, so bull baiting and dog fighting. And both are known for having the quality of being hard dogs and being game dogs, meaning that when they latch on, they won't let go regardless of what's going on in the fight, so to speak.
Yeah. Very high pain tolerance typically. What I really like about this breed, as far as like maintenance goes, very low maintenance. They're like a wash and wear dog.
Yes.
You don't have to groom them a whole lot. You just bathe them, trim their nails, clean their ears. They're really good to go, right? You typically don't have a lot of the genetic issues that you're gonna find with other like purebred dogs. I've never really met a pit bull that didn't have like a natural instinct and love for their handler and wanting to please.
Yes.
I saw that a lot with with you and Bowie, you and Tally, my former client Sean with his dog Cal. Just a lot of that, just like wanting to please. And what makes these dogs really fun to train with is that bite drive and that tug drive, and that makes training so much easier because you have that pre-mech principle that you can increase in there and throw into the training session that the dog's learning. Like, hey, I'm going to do what I get to do here once I just finish these little commands, and then I get to play tug. I really want to play tug, and that really helps with the training process.
Yeah. Now, when we were ranking the top 10 protection dogs, I believe I did have a American Pit Bull Terrier on there, and we ranked them very low, I believe, because we talked about the quality of not letting go, and that's not something that you necessarily want in a protection dog for liability reasons. However, if we're restricting our pool of dogs to they have to be under 60 pounds and they have to be able to do the work, I would think you could do worse than an American Pit Bull or a Staffy. The eagerness to please the handler and the love for the handler is the foundation for what we do with protection work. And you find that very easily. These are not independent dogs. They like being with their people. Now, on the other side of it, you have kind of the bad parts. Like when people think of pit bulls, right, they think of an unpredictable animal. I think a lot of that can be mitigated with proper training and proper leadership and dominance.
Yep. And one little caveat to the other video that we did, the protection training video, we started out that video with, look, we're selecting these breeds based off the fact that they were bred to do this job. They were selectively bred to start using for these tools, and that's why most of them were like the herding breeds that we selected, the Dutch Shepherds, Beaucherons, and things like that. And then you have, where it got more refined, we started talking about like Doberman pinschers. That video is very selective on the breed traits and the history of that breed, where this one's more of like, hey, that'd be a fun dog. It probably would have the traits to do it based off of its genetic capabilities and its history and then lineage. It'd be a really fun dog to have as a protection dog. It'd be kind of something fun to train with.
Yeah. So this isn't the creme de la creme of protection dogs. We already did that video. We've been asked to talk specifically about medium-sized dogs that could do this, and I think this is a good example. Next up, we have the Bull Terrier. So this is another dog that descended from blood sports, right? So There used to be a dog called the Bull and Terrier, where they literally were taking terriers and mixing them with the Old English Bulldog to try and get a better dog for dog fighting. And then this dog ended up moving towards like hunting vermin, so like rats and things like that. Dogs used to do that back in the day. Nowadays, so this dog is around 60-ish pounds. Nowadays, these dogs tend to not be super healthy. I think they have a problem with deafness, if I'm not mistaken.
The whiteness, yeah, white dogs tend to go deaf. And so for those people that are old, like me, this is also known as the Spuds MacKenzie dog from Bud Light commercials in the 1980s.
I was gonna say it's the Target dog. It looks like the Target dog.
Yeah, it's the Spud MacKenzie dog from Bud Light commercials in the early 80s, mid 80s.
That was before my time.
Very much before your time. I was probably like 5, but I do remember seeing the commercials for this. And then when you'd see this dog out, people always referred to it as Spud MacKenzie because that's the name of the dog in the commercial.
Yeah. Well, it's a very distinctive dog. Like, you see the face, there's no mistaking. Like, the egg shape almost. It's got the qualities of being a little bit more game just from its history, but I don't think the breeding has been as stringent with this dog.
Probably because, I don't think people are really breeding for these dogs. I think it's just one of those dogs that people have kind of forgotten about. Like, time is forgotten. And those who are really breeding it, that's a lot of probably inbreeding things going on with it. And they're not really breeding for good qualities and traits anymore. On top of people that want this type of dog are typically going to like the XL bullies now.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I would agree. Next up, we have the boxer. So this is the comment that really prompted me to want to make this list because we didn't include the boxer in the top 10, even though it was a strong contender because of its history. So it's one of the German working dogs. It's smaller than its Rottweiler and its Doberman counterparts. So boxers are like between 55 to 65, 70 pounds. But they're super smart dogs. They're really good with the family. And they're actually descended from it's an extinct breed now. I think it's pronounced Bullenbeißer. It was like a boar hunting mastiff in Germany, and the smaller types eventually became the boxer, which we know today. These dogs compete in Sh/Tzu too. You see them sometimes. Boxers can be successful doing bite work. I think they're a great candidate in this class of like medium-sized dogs.
Yeah, they're great dogs. I've met a few. They're not as popular as they used to be. They used to be really popular in the late 90s, early 2000s. You saw them everywhere. You don't see them as much now. But yeah, they're great dogs. They're pretty dogs. My father-in-law had one that he ended up having to give up to a member of the family who took it and had it for a while. And her name was Scooby. And she was a sweet little boxer, sweet little girl. But yeah, right temperament and the right traits, you could definitely have a really good, protection dog. But again, here you got that size. If you like a big male, something like that, they're gonna be really muscular. If they're working, if they're doing a lot of running and things, you're gonna get that definition on them. So now you're gonna have something to draw that attention to you. And most likely people are gonna cross the street, when you're walking down the street with this type of dog.
Which some people might want.
Yeah, if you want that, yeah. I'm more of the let's hide in plain sight, types thing. It's just, whatever your preference is. But yeah, they definitely do a lot of work with protection work with a boxer. It'd be a fun dog.
And just like the Staffies and the Pit Bulls, they also carry a lot of muscle on their frame for the size that they are. So these are dogs that, although they're less sizable, they're still very, very strong. Next up, we have the German Pinscher. So a lot of people will be like, oh, it looks like a little Doberman. It is, kind of. Again, German dog, they get to about 20 to 45 pounds. And this is actually becoming a rare dog. They used to not be rare. I think they're now on like an endangered breed list because of how few of them there are. But they were stable dogs, right? So they were dogs that would stay around the horses and they would kill the rats and stuff, kind of like a rat terrier would. And they were involved in creating Doberman.
So I had the luxury, I would call it, of fostering a miniature pinscher one time. And one of the odd things I found out about it, and I did some research and talking to some people, is that it liked to burrow. It'd burrow in your sheets and things. I'm assuming that was because they were probably bred to like hunt rats and things and go into tight spaces. Yeah. So yeah, makes sense to have something a little bit bigger to hunt larger vermin in the stables, especially for those, like we talked about a little bit ago, for those people that live in places they can't have a German Shepherd. They can't have these types of dogs because landlord won't permit it, and you want something that's a little smaller, it's a little easier, no one's gonna question it, living in your home or apartment, whatever it may be. These are great options.
Yes, I agree. Next up, we have the standard schnauzer. So in our protection dog list, we had the giant schnauzer. Schnauzers come in 3 sizes, I believe. So you have the mini, the standard, and then the giant. Standard schnauzers are about 30 to 40 pounds, and they have a similar history. I believe schnauzers are also German, aren't they?
Yes, I believe so. And they have a good long history for life expectancy, 13 to 16 years.
Nice. Yeah, they're healthy dogs. I know a couple that have a mini schnauzer, and that dog is sharp as a tack. And if you got one with enough prey drive to want to bite and hold on to something, you could definitely develop them into a protection dog, if you have that relationship.
Yeah, they're bred to pretty much do everything, much like the Airedale. They kind of look a lot like an Airedale, just a little smaller. Again, kind of the shortcomings on this dog here are going to be the grooming standards, but they're cool little dogs. You can do a lot with them. Again, they're very highly trainable. They have a really cool history. Going back to I think the mid 1800s or so.
Yeah.
So for that selective breeding, but yeah, it's another really great option for that protection type working line dog there.
Yeah, you might have to be careful about show breeding.
And many, we've referenced it before, you have to make sure the dog has the right traits, right? So
Yeah.
if you decide to go buy one of these from a breeder and the breeder's like, yeah, my female, my male are both, one, local AKC shows for show, well, it's probably not the dog you want because they're breeding out all that aggression, anything that might have made the dog actually do its job.
The next one is the Welsh Terrier. This is an old dog breed. They're not as common in the US, but I put them on this list because they are exceptionally known for being courageous and assertive for their size. Not surprising, it's a terrier. They get to like 20-ish pounds, 25 pounds, so not a very big dog at all.
So before the haters start commenting on the put in the comments, 20-pound dog, I could punt that thing across the. I don't care how small the dog is, getting bit sucks.
If somebody is very elderly and they need a very manageable dog, and they want a dog that somebody's, snooping around your porch and the dog is letting you know, fits the bill.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's going to show some aggression if it's, keyed up, something like that. You got to also remember, part of like the protection training aspect is building a little bit of that frustration where the dog can't get to the agitator before they let go, and you got to be able to hold that dog back. So there's people in this world that might have arthritis or have issues and they can't hold back a 60, 70, 80 pound dog, but a 25, 30 pound dog, they can hold back fairly easily.
Sure.
Okay, I can deal with that. I can work with that.
It kind of reminds me of when you see on YouTube people discussing gun calibers, and they 380 is not enough to stop a man, or 22 is not enough to stop a man, and the inevitable response to that is this gun is better than no gun.
Yeah.
If you're somebody that is really in the market for a protection dog, but you can't, for whatever reason, do the bigger dogs, maybe some dog is better than no dog. Maybe this is the 22 caliber.
Yeah. Well, there's also a caveat to all that too, right? At some point in time, hopefully not anytime soon in my life, picking up a sick, injured dog and putting it in the back of my car and taking it to the vet, that's over 70 pounds, 80 pounds is going to be pretty much out of the equation, but being able to pick up a little 20-pound dog, 30-pound dog, okay, I can probably still be able to do that in my 80s and 100s. Like, I remember talking to my grandfather when he got his little dog. This was years and years ago. He's since passed, but he got a little dog, and I was talking about it. And he's like, yeah, I can pick her up. If I want to go to the store and I'm going to take her with me, I can pick her up, put her in my car. I can pick her up, put her in the golf cart, and I can go down to the clubhouse with her and things like that. And just like, he had no problem picking up a little dog, and that's why he wanted a little dog. And this dog is not going to eat a whole lot of food, and you're not going to need a snow shovel to clean up after it.
You always go for the snow shovel.
I had mastiffs. I cleaned up after mastiffs, numerous mastiffs.
I understand. You seem a little traumatized. That's okay.
When you fill your trash can after 1 week of picking up crap, it's kind of a problem.
Next up, we have the Shiba Inu. lots of people have this dog, and they're very small compared to some of the other dogs. So they're like 20 to 30 pounds. When surveyed, these dogs had more aggression than other dogs of the same size, according to their owners. Of the Shiba Inus that I have known, they do not like strangers. A lot of people that have had Shibas told me they don't get along well with other dogs.
They're a pretty dog. When I see a dog like that, I'm like, man, that dog's gonna be a nightmare to brush. You're gonna brush that thing forever and never stop.
That they don't look as bad as German Shepherd. Probably not. All right,
Well, they have a
next
double
up, this one's gonna be an interesting one. I'm kind of proud of myself for this one. So we have the American Bully. So this is not the same thing as an American Bulldog, which are very big dogs. And this is not the same thing as the American Pit Bull, which we talked about before. Those are big, taller, and more slender. So the American Bully is a more recent breed. They're not AKC recognized, but as we've talked about, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. And people started breeding these dogs mostly for the look. They wanted a dog that was smaller in stature, but still appeared very, very strong. So these dogs are very notable for, one, the very square, wide head, and two, the muscles. So, you've heard of pocket bullies, so that's the mini version of this. Then you have like the standard size, and then you have the XL bullies. And the reason that a lot of people have heard the phrase XL bullies is because, particularly in the UK, those dogs were linked to a lot of deaths, and they're now banned. But the standard size, which is what's pictured here, they're around 50 to 60 pounds.
I can see a lot of health issues with these dogs, primarily because, and also the traits there where people are just breeding for a look and they're not necessarily breeding for a standard and an expectation of behaviors. So they're like, oh, I have a big female, you have a big muscular male, let's just breed them. And all of a sudden you have a dog that has, really high prey drive, or a lot more gameness in it, a lot more dominance, aggression, things like that. But just having a dog with that small of a frame with that much muscle on there, you're bound to start having joint issues.
Yeah.
And having dogs like this, I would see they probably have a lot of tendon issues because there's so much muscle. Those tendons were never designed to hold that much muscle. So if this dog started doing a lot of jumping or really high energy activities like that, I could see a lot more of those injuries happening in these dogs.
Yeah, and that's something that's super notable about the American Pit Bull Terrier is how durable the dog is and athletic the dog is. And if you compare this dog to that dog, the proportions are different. The weight is held differently. Many of these dogs, you see the poor breeding because the dogs are like this. The front, which is cruel to the animal, but the dog was included on this list because it is a very notable example of a smaller dog that has notable aggression in it, and I think they could definitely be a candidate for personal protection.
Yeah, definitely. You could definitely have that in there. Being any type of bully breed, they're naturally going to want to bite things and hold on to things and play tug and do those. It'd be very easy to train and just, condition that behavior. But my biggest concern would be the risk of injury of the dog doing a lot of popping. So they're going to grab on and start pulling and causing injury to the dog, especially the tendons and things. My other concern with these dogs, flatter snout, doing any type of long-term protection work, doing a lot of training with them, they're going to overheat easily.
Last but not least, we have the Canaan dog. This is 35 to 55 pounds, and they are the national dog of Israel, which I did not know, obviously originating in the Middle East. They've been around a long time, and they're known as being very, very distrustful of strangers and also being a very agile dog. So I would say we have the opposite concerns to this dog as we do with the American Bully. You can see the stature of this dog, the way that it's proportioned. They have a long life expectancy. A lot of people compete with agility with these dogs.
So at first glance, when I saw that, it reminded me very much of a Basenji. Apparently there's documentation going back a couple thousand years on this dog. From the site that I'm on here, they actually show some black and white pictures of this breed, being used for canine work, used for the Israeli army.
Yeah.
Did a lot of stuff after World War II. If you had like protection trained within things, it'd definitely be a good talking point.
Yeah, well, it's one of the few dogs I found that had a history of doing military and or police work that was like under 50 pounds. Like, that's a small dog for doing that type of work.
Yeah, it's a cool little list. Hope it gives some people some ideas of thinking outside the box if you're looking to do protection or have a new breed you want to have in your home. Speaking of breed histories, you and I have discussed adding to the channel, not necessarily the podcast side of things, but the content we're putting out and doing like a breed history kind of lecture where we start exploring the history of different breeds and how they came about, original intent of the breed. But if you have any ideas for the show, please drop them in the comments below. I'm sure we'll get some haters out there on this stuff, but Taylor likes that back and forth with those people. She gets really into it and laughs about it. And
Did you somebody called us emotional Doberman owners?
Yeah, and I replied back and I said, I don't own a Doberman. Yes. And I laughed at him. I think I called him a troll.
He's like, you didn't put a German Shepherd in the S tier, you're on crack. And I was like, you didn't spell Shepherd right. It's not spelled with an A, my friend.
Yeah.
You're an emotional Doberman owner. Okay.
Igor, you're a Doberman?
I'm emotional, but I'm not a Doberman owner.
But when somebody keeps commenting like that over and over again, that's just like someone seeking attention because they weren't loved or hugged enough as a child.
I know, but I just want to know where it comes from. Like, where did emotional Doberman owner come out of?
Yeah. Something they heard. I just wonder, like, when someone can come, like, we appreciate the comments, like, hate or not, I don't care, because it, like, feeds the algorithm, right? Like, but it's like, do you got nothing better to do with your time?
Well, I have a requirement, I think, that I'm going to impose on the public. If you're going to argue to me that a dog is superior, you need to spell it right. Okay, it's not shepherd spelled S-H-E-P-A-R-D. That's not how you spell shepherd. Also, it's not Belgium Malinois. It's Belgian Malinois. So if you're going to bitch about me not putting the Belgium Malinois higher, I don't know what the Belgium Malinois is, because that's not a thing. Thank you. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're going to argue, spell right. So please comment, like, subscribe, share, get this information out there. We'd love to hear from you. Taylor would love to argue with you. And as always, train smart.